Good day and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. So, I've got a question for you. Do you ever have this problem where these dice just keep rolling around your head and won't stop? Just constantly. It is bound to drive someone crazy, or at least really annoy them. That's the problem our buddy Matt has in Book 7 of The Wheel of Time, A Crown of Swords. Well, that and a few other problems. We're going to get right into it, so stay tuned. So one of the fun things about Matt, or maybe not a fun thing, but one of the unique things that's going on with Matt is the dice I'd mentioned at the beginning of this video. The dice that keep rolling around in his head. These dice seem to warn him of imminent danger. When the dice start rolling, danger's coming. And he doesn't know when, he doesn't know where from or how it's going to come, but they start rolling and they don't stop rolling in his head until the danger comes. So this is kind of one of those things that kind of is driving Matt crazy. He's like, man, I wish those dice would stop rolling already, instead of having this tension build up in him where you got the dice rolling, you know something bad's going to happen, but you don't know when it's coming. And if it would just stop, at least you could get danger over with, and it's just driving him crazy. And this is just nuts and crazy and insane. Why won't the dice stop rolling? That's got to be something that drives him nuts. I can certainly understand. It's kind of a fun little quirk, I guess, fun little thing going on with Matt, or at least it's a part of it that I enjoy reading about. Reading him talking about the dice rolling in his head and wishing they would stop. And of course that gives the reader a clue that something's going to happen as well. When Matt starts talking about the dice rolling in his head, you know that something's going to happen. Now, it might not be for another 100 or 200 pages, but something is coming up. We're building up to something when those dice start rolling. And that's kind of a fun part of this book and what's happening with that. So, yeah, I mean, that's what the dice is about. Anyway, so, Book 7 of The Wheel of Time, A Crown of Swords. So, what's going on in this book is the weather is all screwed up. It is messed up. Things aren't the way they should be weather-wise. There hasn't been any rain. It's been massive drought, and things are just getting bad. Between the terrible weather that should not be happening and other things like this killer fog that rolls in and kills people at random. So this is getting to be insane, not just in terms of the Dragon Reborn and the Forsaken being loose and everything else that's going on, but even the weather and the world itself seems to be going mad. Just as those with the one power go mad, those men who can channel go mad. And this is really kind of the start of the world itself going mad as well. So of course we have Elaine and Nynaeve who have been dispatched and sent off to Ebu Dar in order to find this Bowl of the Winds. The Bowl of the Winds is this, basically it's this artifact with power that enables you to control the weather. With the Bowl of the Winds, they can channel the energies and the power necessary in order to alter the weather and restore the balance necessary for the weather in this world. But Ebu Dar is an extremely dangerous place, especially with Moghedien, who has escaped her bondage and she is loose and she wants to kill and get rid of Elaine and Nynaeve as well. She is certainly after them. So this is not a good time. It's not a good place for them to be, but it is a necessary place for them to be. And of course, Rand, who is the Dragon Reborn, he is concerned for the safety of Elaine and Nynaeve, and he dispatches Matt to Ebu Dar to try to bring them back. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know why they're in Ebu Dar, only that they are there, it's dangerous, and they need to be brought back in Rand's mind for their own good and their own safety. And of course, Rand is trying to get Elaine to come back and sit upon the Lion Throne of Andor to take her rightful place as queen. But Elaine is too busy essentially trying to save the world in her own right. Now, the biggest problem our characters are having in this series is a complete and total lack of communication between all the parties involved. So there's this constant conflict about who's right and who's doing things the proper way and what needs to be done versus what the other characters are seeing need to be done. And there just seems to be this entire lack of communication between all parties. They all want the same thing in the end, but they all have different things that they feel need to be done to accomplish that end goal. So of course Matt is here in Evo Dar trying to get rid of but bring Elaine and Nynaeve back to what is deemed safety. And of course this is a point of contention between Elaine and Nynaeve and Matt. Elaine and Nynaeve feeling like Matt is just an annoyance, he's getting in the way and causing trouble, where Matt is extremely frustrated with Elaine and Nynaeve because he's trying to do what needs to be done. He's trying to help them and keep them from harm, which he feels is also necessary. He's trying to be that good friend essentially, but is constantly pushed away. So while he's trying to deal with that, he's also being hounded by Tylin, Queen of Evo Dar essentially. And she is constantly harassing him and hounding him and trying to keep him like a pet and pursuing him to be his boy toy essentially, which is complete turn of the tables for Matt because he's the one that's usually chasing the girls, so to speak, but now he's the one being sought after, and it's a complete turning of the tables. Now, what's interesting about part of what happens here, one of my favorite scenes of this book actually, is when Nynaeve is basically forced to her knees to humble herself before Matt and seek his forgiveness and apologize for the way that she has been treating him. Because in previous books, if we remember, Matt basically rescued Nynaeve and Elaine from being trapped in dungeons and being held by the Forsaken, but he never got a proper thank you. He was basically rejected. He wasn't treated very kindly for doing that, and he was basically treated like he just got in the way of their plans and messed everything up, when in reality they needed rescuing. And Matt played a pivotal role in their rescue. And so Avienda and the Aiel basically told her, you know, you need to fix this. You need to apologize to Matt. You owe him great honor for what he's done for you. And so Nynaeve was basically humbled and forced to humble herself as a result of that in order to obtain what is now the necessary help from Matt to locate and find this Bull of the Winds so that they can fix the weather and fix everything that's going on in the world. Well, not everything. The Bull of the Winds won't fix everything, but it will restore the proper natural balance of nature, which is very important, of course, as we all know. So that was a really awesome scene within this book, and I really liked that. I thought that was a pretty awesome way to go about that, or a pretty awesome thing for Nynaeve to have to do. And I really enjoyed kind of reading that aspect, because Nynaeve, she's not a character that humbles herself easily. She is constantly bitter and angry, which is understandable because that she has this block that prevents her from channeling the one power unless she's angry. So whenever she wants to channel or needs to channel, she has to make herself angry enough to channel so she could do so. And this has been a big issue, a big block for her. Now, there are events that happen within this book in which Nynaeve is forced into a life or death situation, and she overcomes her block. So she breaks that block and she's able to channel without being angry. But old habits die hard. It's not easy for Nynaeve to stop thinking about being angry in order to channel. It's just an old habit. So this is something that she needs to work on for that, in order to fix that, so that she can maybe channel and not be angry at the same time, although she doesn't need to be angry to channel anymore. So this is really good that she's punched through that block. And that's kind of the main focus of this particular book, A Crown of Swords, is the events in Evo Dar and Matt, Nynaeve and Elaine getting the Bull of the Winds. Rand, of course, still plays a role. He's still doing things he deems necessary as the Dragon Reborn, but I found that most of the stories seem to focus on Matt, Elaine, and Nynaeve in Evo Dar. So there are, of course, some other side aspects of things going on. We have the Aiel, who have basically taken Aes Sedai hostage or captive, the ones that tried to harm Rand at Dumani's Wells. They are being basically held and trained, well, not trained, but they're basically being held and put through a lot of hard work by the Aiel Wise Ones, and they are basically being run into the ground and basically being taught a lesson. You don't mess with the Dragon Reborn, and the Aiel Wise Ones are not easy on these Aes Sedai that tried to harm Rand. And so that is definitely interesting kind of side plot within this book. It does do a little bit of that focus within this book, but not a whole lot. Like I said, most of the focus seems to be on Nynaeve, Elaine, and Mat and Evo Dar. So that's kind of happening there as well. And of course, A Crown of Swords, we have the final chapter in which the Crown of Swords, kind of the book title, the reason for the book title kind of is revealed and comes into play with that, where Rand essentially is crowned in Ilion as king with a crown that comes to be known as a Crown of Swords. Overall, like most Wheel of Time books, this is a good entry into the Wheel of Time series. I am certainly enjoying my reread. Again, this is my third time through the Wheel of Time, and overall, it has just been a fun read. I am enjoying The Crown of Swords. I did give it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, and definitely I will be picking up the next book, A Path of Daggers, so you can stay tuned for that review a little bit later this month. Path of Daggers coming up next. And those are just my thoughts primarily on A Crown of Swords. So of course, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can join me on the Discord. I'm not really using it that much, but you know, if you want to join up, it's there in the links below as well. And yeah, those are just my thoughts on A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan, Book 7 of the Wheel of Time. So as always, until next time, keep on reading. Bye.